picks up where Richard II left off, basically. It picks up with Henry Bolingbroke, who is now Henry IV, has just ascended the throne, and he has usurped the throne from Richard II in the previous play. So it begins the play with him sort of in this state of unrest and a kingdom of transition. And it basically is about him and as well as his son. And his son is the heir to the throne, Prince Hal. And Prince Hal is, you know, obviously heir to the throne, but he's sort of a wastrel. He is someone who doesn't agree with his father usurping the crown from Richard, and spends his time in a tavern, spending the bulk of his time with a sort of wastrel, thief, criminal, fat man by the name of Sir John Falstaff. And it basically is the story about how King Henry is curbing rebellion around him. The play really is a culmination about transition, and the transition of an old way of thinking, which was a very medieval perspective of honor and chivalry, into this sort of Renaissance thinking of a new way to lead your country. And that really culminates over the course of the next three plays, Henry IV, I, II, and then sort of culminates with Henry V, who really, in many ways, becomes the greatest English monarch that, you know, England has ever seen. Our touchstone is the works of William Shakespeare, and our audience should get the breadth of his plays. And within these plays are these great history plays, you know. And I think what better way to view them than in chronological order of how they fell out over history, because they're really like one big gigantic family drama played out over hundreds of years. I think it's going to make it more accessible for our patrons. I think it's a thrill for our actors to have the opportunity to do some of these plays that are less frequently produced, some of the Henry VIs and so forth. But I think more than anything, there's going to be a familiarity for the audience to sort of follow the journey. For instance, Henry IV Part I, we pick up right where we left off with Richard II, which we just did this past fall. We have the same actor who played Bolingbroke in that production is carrying over to play Henry in this production. Our intent is to have that same actor play Henry in Part II, as well as Prince Hal, who we meet in this production, Henry IV I. The same actor will play it in Part I, Part II, and then in Henry V. And same with the actor playing Falstaff. He'll be in Part I and Part II. So that there is a thread for our audience and that they don't have to rethink it differently. The costumes are definitely period, 15th century clothing that they're wearing. The scenic, you know, because we're working the Adams stage, the Adams is sort of its own Elizabethan entity, which I'm trying to celebrate in the sense of the time period, because this play for me is a very English play. We've built into the scenic component is that this is a world in transition. So we have these portraits of Plantagenet kings, who were the former realm before Henry, that are present in our inner above, that are sort of gradually being painted over in the sense of them fading into the background. And there's a giant stained glass window in the inner above that is the Henry crest that for me is really about a man who's trying to put his face in front of everybody else, to try to establish himself in this world. What I love about the play is there's the sort of political side of the play, which all you have to do is turn on your television to see any type of political, you know, dialogue that's similar to what they were dealing with then. And then there's this domestic side of the play, which is really about parenting. And it's about family. And I think that that is always timeless. So it's very human, it's very funny, it's very sad, it's very aggressive and barbaric at times. And it really is this history play that has everything in it. I mean, it really is kind of like, if you were to categorize this as a film, it would be a blockbuster film that has everything in it. You know, it's definitely something you would see like Steven Spielberg take on, you know, because it has all these wonderful elements of life.